All right, for this video, we're going to jump right now into Chapter 1. Actually, the first section, Chapter 1, kind of goes over basic, like what a variable is, meaning that's an unknown, and it can represent a number. This, we're going to skip to and go right to 1.2, order of operations. And you've probably seen this before. This is PEMDAS. You might have heard maybe a previous teacher say, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That's kind of an acronym you can use. But basically in math, we have to always follow a certain order or a certain routine. If we have a bunch of operations, addition, multiplication, subtraction, if we have all of those in some parentheses and we throw in some exponents, there's a procedure that you have to follow. You have to, do a certain amount of operations first before you do others. And how we remember it is this PEMDAS, this please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Well, the math terms, what do they stand for? Well, in your notes, you can put this down. The P stands for parentheses. Okay, I'm probably going to be a little sloppy when I write this on. Now, parentheses means basically any grouping symbol. Put parentheses. And then in parentheses, ironically, I'll put any grouping symbol. As soon as you see this, you have to take care of this first. It's the very first thing you have to do. You'll hear me say this a lot, even when we solve equations. When you see parentheses, they're like the flashing lights. All right, you got to take care of that first. That's your first priority, so I'll put a 1 right next to it. Okay, E is exponents, which we're probably not going to do a whole lot of work with, but we will later in the year. So after you take care of parentheses, then if you have exponents, like an example is if you had, give an example. If you had like 2 to the 3rd power, right? That's not 2 times 3, that's 2 times 2 times 2. Let's put this 2 times 2 times 2, which would be about 4 times 2. This would be 8. Okay, that would be our second priority. Then when we get to the 4 operations, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction, your third priority. And you can see it's written on the same line for a reason. We're going to have multiplication. Okay, I'll just abbreviate that, and division. I'll write this all out. Now, the reason why I write this on the same line, this is you go left to right. I'm not saying you do multiplication before division. You do whatever comes first. Okay, if you multiply, then you divide, well, then that's what you do. But if you divide, and then it has you multiply, then you just go in that order, left to right. Then the last priority, after you do everything else, parentheses, exponents, and multiply and divide, the last thing you should do is add or subtract. Oops. And again, this we're going to use that left to right rule. So whatever occurs first, if subtraction occurs before addition, well then we subtract before we add, and vice versa. Okay, and you've probably seen these before. Now let's take a look at some examples. All right, so let's move this up. Okay, let's look at number 1 here. And just follow through the list there. So if we look at number 1, okay, we have addition, we have multiplication, and we have subtraction. Well, addition and subtraction are on the last line. This we have to do first. So I have to multiply before I add or subtract. So 4 times 2 is 8, and I bring all the other numbers down. So I'll even cross that out. I did that. 4 times 2 is 8. I bring the 16 and the plus down. I bring the minus 3 down. All right, now this is what I'm talking about, left to right rule. Okay, we're adding and subtracting, so I can just go left to right. So 16 plus 8 is 24, and 24 minus 3 is 21. Notice how I'm showing all my work, and this took me about 3 steps, and then I get the answer. Make sure you show your work, because if you just put your answers down on the test or quiz and it's wrong, you will receive no partial credit. It'll just be all wrong. Okay, let's look at number 2. All right, put that in a box so we don't get confused with the 2 next to it. All right, let's look what stands out. Remember those flashing, blinking lights, the parentheses. So I have to take care of this first. So when I add those 2 plus 8, it's going to give me 10. Okay, I'm going to leave those in parentheses. Then I'm going to bring the 5 and the 6 down. Whoops. Okay, let's leave some more space. All right, so I'll put, what is it, 5 times 6. And then we have the 10. Now, when you look at this is a good one to look at. This is all multiplication. The dot here means multiplication. And if you just have a number and then another number in parentheses, that's multiplication. So I can just go left to right. Let's see here. 5 times 6 is 30. And then 30 times 10. Well, a little trick to do this without a calculator. I'm just going to multiply 3 and 1, which is 3. And then I just bring this 0 and this 0 to the next to it, and we get 300. So that's our answer for 2. All right, let's skip number 3. Number 3, you guys do right now, and we're going to go over it in class tomorrow. So the parentheses, there's 2 sets of parentheses which should stand out. Do that, show all your work. We'll go over it tomorrow. Okay, let's look at number 4. Now again, what should stand out are these grouping symbols. So let's take care of this first. I literally could ignore this plus 6 and this divided by 2. Let's just focus on what's inside the grouping symbol. Now if I look at this, 6 minus negative 2, well, this is add a line, change a sign, if you subtract a negative. So this becomes 6 plus 2. So on the inside, we have 8 and this grouping symbol. We still have this squared, and then we have plus 6 divided by 2. Okay, we have 3 things going on right here. We have this division, this addition, and we have this exponent. Well, exponent is what we do right after parentheses. That's the second priority. So let's take care of that. 8 squared. Now 8 squared, remember, that's 8 times 8, not 8 times 2. So 8 times 8, that's 64. And then we have plus 6 divided by 2. Okay, then division, this comes before addition. So when I divide these, 6 divided by 2 is 3. Okay, I bring the 64 and the plus down. And then 64 plus 3 gives me 67. All right. Okay, let's do one more. We're going to do number 5, and then number 6 you're going to do on your own. So number 3 and 6, those are the ones that you have to do on your own. Give those a shot, see if you can get them, and we'll go over them tomorrow in class, very first thing. All right, now these ones, fraction bars, these act as grouping symbols. I'll put this act as, I'm going to put this. Now, what do I mean by that? That means, like the fraction bar, you're probably thinking, this fraction bar, you're probably thinking, all right, well, we have to divide first. That comes before addition. But what is not written and is assumed is, the top there's a grouping symbol, the bottom there's a grouping symbol. So really what this means is when you have a fraction bar and you have a bunch of operations in the numerator, which is the top, and a bunch of operations which is in the bottom, which is called the denominator, you have to take care of that first. So use order of operations in the top, use order of operations in the bottom, and then the last thing you do is divide. All right? So it's kind of like 2 problems in one, the top and the bottom. Well, if I look at the top for this, right, if I just ignore the bottom, well, 7 times 4 is 28. That's pretty easy. Okay, if I look at the bottom, we have addition, subtraction, and then we have the exponents. Well, I take care of the exponents. That takes precedence. 7 squared, that's 7 times 7, which is 49. So I'm going to have 8 plus 49 minus 1. Okay, then if I do the bottom here, let's see here. I can go left to right because it's addition and subtraction. 8 plus 49 is 57. And then you subtract 1, so you get 56. So we have 28 over 56. And then this can reduce. 28 is exactly half of 56. So 28 goes into 28 once, and 28 goes into this 56 2 times. Make sure after you evaluate the numerator and the denominator that that fraction is simplified in lowest terms. All right, so we applied the order of operations to the top and the bottom, and this is what we ended up with here, 1/2. Okay, so right now you can make sure you have all those notes for, I guess we did 4 of the problems, and make sure you do number 3 right now and do number 6, and let's be ready to roll to go over these first thing in class tomorrow.